I am Patricia Kristof. I'm Director of Music at Kohl Mansion, and it is my great pleasure to be here today with the members of the Ying Quartet, one of Music at Kohl's all-time favorite ensembles. And we are so thrilled that we are going to be hearing you on broadcast in the month of March, and hopefully soon again in person at the Kohl Mansion.
We wish we could be there. I remember very fondly my first time there 3 or 4 years ago, playing at the Kohl Mansion, and look forward to being there sometime again.
We just wish that we could be there in person. It's such a wonderful place to visit, and such a great space to play in. Sounds fantastic in there.
It's been 4 years since the last time we saw you on stage at Kohl Mansion. Can you talk a little bit about what's been going on with the Ying Quartet for the last 4 years and maybe the last year?
Well, we've spent most of our time here in Rochester, New York, where we're still based, working at the Eastman School of Music. It's always a fresh situation, not only because it's a fantastic school, but new students are always coming in and we're graduating students. So that is always a fresh experience, and we love our work with our students. One of our performing initiatives in the last 4 years, we've gone to China 5 times in the last 4 years. That's been a special experience for us as well. For 3 out of the 4 of us, it means something because it's our own family heritage. But just as a quartet, interacting with musicians and audiences in China and getting a better understanding of the country in general, for us on a personal basis, but also in specific, the kind of chamber music activity that's happening there, the way audiences feel about chamber music, the way the musicians feel about chamber music. We've had the opportunity to do some teaching, some master classes over there. So that's been a fantastic project that we've been developing over the last 4 years.
I think, however, as important as the work that Phil has said has been to the quartet, our most significant work as a quartet, although I haven't had anything to do with it, has been in producing offspring. Robin has new children since the last time we visited, and so does Phil. So that's really exciting. I'm an uncle.
Sure. So at the start of the pandemic, we, like every other musician, had to stop performing. But by the end of the summer, we were able to arrange a concert out of doors at a library. And it was such a wonderful experience just to make music again with people to listen, to respond to. And so it just always affirms, how special it is to make music.
So starting in about mid-March, we took a break. The longest one we realized in retrospect that we'd ever taken from playing together, at least for David, Janet, and myself, and now Robin. But in our last 30 years, it was the longest break that we'd ever taken from playing string quartets together. It was not until July, after 3.5 months, to sit down and play a Beethoven quartet. Actually, the very first piece we played was a Dvorak quartet because it's Dave's favorite piece ever. And so what a fun experience that we would have never probably chosen for ourselves, to take our longest break ever and to say, what piece are we going to play the first time we make music together? So that these opportunities just came because we've all lived through this. We've rehearsed pretty much constantly since then. We've managed to give some live performance we did an outdoor setting, distanced, for a library. And we've done a number of video kinds of things, either live or pre-recorded since then. So I'm sure we're not unlike other groups. We love to play and we love to share music, and we're figuring out ways to do that. And hopefully pretty soon we'll get back to doing it live.
I'm very interested in how you've been teaching these past months, and how you've used technology and what you've discovered perhaps about how technology has been helpful or not.
Well, technology has been incredible in the sense that in another age, the pandemic would have completely shut people off. We've had no contact with each other. The fact that we have Zoom and other platforms now has just been amazing, that we could even do anything. That being said, we really miss making music and teaching music in person. So I'm really excited that Eastman School of Music has restarted with students in person. It's almost kind of emotional for me to hear my students play personally for me. I try not to break down in lessons, but I still teach quite a few people on Zoom. It's not easy. Doesn't sound as great. But we can still communicate, and especially for the students that I know well, I can kind of extrapolate what they're doing. The things I can't quite hear, because I know they're playing well, I can kind of fill in the blanks. And I'll tell you another thing that's been very, to me, exciting about the increased use of Zoom is that I've met and heard and interacted with a great many cellists and other musicians from far-flung spots in the globe that I probably would not have met otherwise.
Last week, I heard 3 really wonderful violinists from young chamber musicians in the Bay Area. And like Dave said, you don't actually hear how they sound, but you can figure out pretty well actually what they do sound like, even if you don't hear it. And you can hear you can detect intention somehow well enough that I find you can still make a difference as a teacher. And I had a really great time giving this class last.
You probably know that Young Chamber Musicians is in residence at Music at Kohl Mansion, so they are our young students. They are from schools all over the Bay Area, and we're so grateful that you were able to hear them. I'm going to ask the question that you probably get all the time about being a sibling quartet, which we love and we know you started as. And I want to ask you the obvious question about what it's like. Oh, Robin, come back. I won't ask you the obvious question about what it's like being integrated into a quartet that's always been siblings before, but are there any funny stories? Are there any interesting stories around that transition when it happened, and anything that you care to share about the trials and tribulations of that change?
Maybe it's harder for the person coming in to get used to a different ensemble. And in this case, like the 3 of them have played together for 20 years when I joined, or more than 20 years. So in a sense, like they have something that they've done and cultivated for so long, which I haven't been a part of. So like there's that thing to get used to. And then at the same time, there's my playing to get used to. It feels like we're musicians who get together to play together. And the fact that they happen to be siblings is just irrelevant, I guess. But I like the fact that unlike many quartets out there, we get along. We eat together. When we go to China, we were just talking about how one of the best things is that we go all across the country and we get to try, a dozen different cuisines while we're there. And
on our travels, we were in Chongqing, and we went to this amazing sort of place where they do the stew, hot pot, and you can literally see all of the Szechuan peppercorns floating in that liquid, and the more, the hotter it gets. And guess who kept asking for it to be hotter? Hotter, hotter, hotter. It was Robin. He couldn't get enough of it. We were like, Robin, are you okay? And he was just, he went as hot as he possibly could. Playing with Robin is exciting. We made a point of saying we're never going to pull we've always done it this way card. That we've decided that the retard goes here. Robin gets an equal say, if not more say, because now I can say, Robin, you agree with me, right? And then he's like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Then I can look at we can look at Dave and Jan and say.
Having Robin in the quartet has been an incredible breath of fresh air, musically speaking, because it's not so much that Phil and Janet and I have this way of interacting, even though in a sense we do, but when someone is new in the quartet, especially someone with a strong musical personality like Robin, we are all reacting to him in our own way. And thus, now when we play with Robin, Phil sounds different to me than he used to. And Janet sounds different to me than she used to. I mean, familiar, but also different, because she's reacting to Robin in her own way. And that renewed sense of interaction and response to one another is actually really good. It's better than us having a Ying way and taking each other for granted. So we do feel a little self-conscious, though, about us being called the Ying Quartet, even though Robin is not a Ying technically, although spiritually, of course, he's a Ying.
As you are teaching and as you are obviously responding to what is happening in the world of chamber music today and classical music, I assume that you have been looking into, really digging into the works of either women composers or composers of color. I'm just curious to know a little bit about that and whether you're teaching, playing, researching, recording, or thinking about new or old works by BIPOC composers or women composers.
Actually, I feel really fortunate with the way that our career developed. Many people came to know us because we went out to rural Iowa way back at the very beginning of our career. We moved to a town of 2,000 people in the middle of Iowa. And that was not about racial diversity, but it certainly opened our eyes to the power of music in everyday life. Just the idea that music has something profound to say about who we are as human beings. That was really a life-changing experience and sent us on a track of being involved in all kinds of community projects, relevant to today. I remember doing a project specifically, among many, where we teamed up with the Anderson Quartet, which is an all African-American string quartet that also was associated with Eastman at the time. And so we found a common ground to go together. We did a residency in LA, and we went all around the community to underserved areas. We even went to a maximum security juvenile prison together, which was an incredible experience. So I feel really lucky that we have seen firsthand how music and the arts can make a difference in terms of supporting diversity and making a really powerful statement about how the arts serve us all and can break down barriers. Another way that we've enjoyed doing that with our career is by commissioning music. We've had a project called Life Music for many, many years, a couple decades actually. And I know that the idea of commissioning music, we wanted it to reflect our experience of going into communities of all sorts. So we have commissioned in that project over a couple of dozen composers, equal numbers of men and women. We did one of our most recent projects was with the pianist Billy Childs. And he wrote us a piano quintet that we went and performed in many places and did residencies together. It's been exciting, and we're glad to see all of the renewed energy towards making the arts say something about all this.
So outside of teaching and outside of work, what do you do in your spare time? What's fun?
So for me, one of the nice things about the pandemic, if there is anything that can be called nice about it, is that I have spent a lot more time at home. So that's allowed me to spend a lot more time with my children. My daughter is a cellist, so we share that in common, although she'd never admit to it. And my son is very interested in sports, and sports was my big love when I was little too. So I feel like getting to hang out with him has been kind of a return to my childhood. I saw every single Little League game he played this past summer, as opposed to in the past where I've missed entire seasons of his. It's the first time I spent the summer at home since I was in 9th grade. My yard in Rochester looked above average compared to my usual, which is terrible. So I have kind of enjoyed the little pause in life, I guess you could say.
I learned to knit a number of years ago, and so it really got revived when I had a lot more time. So I realized I have quite a few nieces, so they all got hats for Christmas.
Knitted hats, like hand knitted hats.
Yes,
Yeah.
and knitted hats. Yes.
Not just the nieces. The brother got a hat too.
I think maybe even the Quartet brothers' daughter may have gotten a hat, and maybe son too.
Yeah, Janet's got many, many skills, and one of the ones that she's had more time to do recently is cook and bake. And I live very close to her, so a fresh baked peach pie in season and a fresh baked strawberry pie in season. These come out regularly now, which is fantastic. Which is fantastic. I'm a willing recipient.
The time to spend at home with the family was really to have a sort of a lazier summer in a good way, not lazy actually, but to have time. And I did a bunch of house projects. I think I enjoy doing that sort of house repair work because it's not my daily job in a way. So it's all really novel.
I have 3 young children, 7 and 5 and 3 months. So that takes up plenty of time. There was more space to do things like watch movies, read books. So that's been fun. But it was important, and I think we all did this in our own ways, to do something musically, if we weren't rehearsing. And so I made a project of some of the Hindemith solo sonatas that I hadn't done yet. But I took the opportunity to do some repertoire exploring, which was fun. It was fun to just practice without the pressures of preparing for concerts.
What's the very first thing you want to do or place you want to go after all the restrictions are lifted? And all of you?
Go play concerts, but one of the not only places like Kohl Mansion, but I really treasure the summers and the chance for musicians to go to places like Maine and Colorado, wherever other beautiful places that musicians have set up shop. And I usually am able to do that with my family in the summer. So I'm excited about being able to do that.
My wife and I haven't been to Korea, where she's from, for over 2.5 years now. So we're hoping this summer we're going to go there for nearly the whole summer. And that way her family can meet our 1.5-year-old son, and a lot of things that have been put off for quite a while now because of the pandemic. So that had better happen.
It's just the simple pleasures, being able to call up your friend and say, let's have lunch, and, be able to do it.
Dave?
So just before the pandemic, my kids, we had some various things that made it good reason to take our kids abroad for the first time. And so we took our kids to Europe once, and we took them to Costa Rica too. And all of a sudden now they're like, when are we going on our next trip?
I'm going to deviate from the script just for silliness and ask you, each of you, one-word answer, and I'll call on you. Favorite food?
I'm going to go pizza.
It would have to be something baked. And maybe just this chocolate cake that has pistachios and salt.
That's easy for me. Chocolate.
Perhaps gelato or pies.
I just want to say what a privilege it is to spend these few minutes with you, even on Zoom, and how much I look forward to hearing you, and of course, hearing you live again.
Yeah, and Patricia, it's just, every time we've come to Kohl Mansion, such a special experience. The audience is so engaged in what you're doing, and the way you eat there even allows it to be so. I love talking to Kai every time we come. I learn new things about music every time I talk to him. I learn about a piece I never knew of when I talk to him. So there's nothing not to like about coming to Kohl. So we can't wait for the next time.
Thank you so much for being with me today. What a pleasure.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you all. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.